Are you serious? Are you serious? Folks, things is getting very intense around the world between warring factions. You have ISIS running through, of course, Iraq, threatening the borders of Syria, threatening the borders of Jordan, threatening to invade Jordan, threatening to nuke Israel, threatening to behead President Obama, killing of 6 Kurds, and attacking and killing 3 Iranian soldiers along the Iranian border, taking over the Air Force, one of the airports, 6 or 7 of the towns and cities, including Mosul, murdering and beheading and executing and raping the civilians that are in Iraq and promising to march on Baghdad. That's just one situation. Then you have North Korea shooting 3 missiles toward Japan yesterday. And then you've got other reports going on in other parts of the world. But let's go to Europe and Ukraine. John F. Kerry, the Secretary of State of the United States, gives Russia just hours to ease the Ukraine crisis. Now, here's what the report is. The United States has warned Russia it has only hours to prove it is helping disarm the Ukrainian insurgents, whose tenacious and very tenuous truce with Kiev is due to expire by the weekend. Now, U.S. Secretary of State John F. Kerry's ultimatum was delivered a day before Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko signed the final chapters of his historic European Union accord that nudges his country toward eventual membership and pulls it firmly out of Russia's reach. The West is scrambling to save a temporary ceasefire and bring peace talks that pro-Russian separatists who are now threatening the ex-Soviet state's survival of Ukraine. Now, Mr. Poroshenko on yesterday, pushed back the expiration date, if you will, of the truce that was broken on repeated occasions, but still having succeeded in tempering the worst of the violence in the Russian-filled eastern portions there of Ukraine for a few hours at least. The deadline is tonight, 7 p.m. Local time there in Ukraine. But Ukraine's new Western-backed leaders and separatist commanders have set up a third round of indirect negotiations to be held. Try to get another extension. The Kremlin said Mr. Putin assured German Chancellor Angela Merkel that he fully supported the resumption of meaningful dialogue between the warring sides. Now, President Vladimir Putin said, and Mrs. Merkel discussed the need to extend the truce, establish regular contact groups, meetings, and the release of forcibly detained individuals, according to the Kremlin. So John Kerry is saying, you've just got hours to do something. You got to start disarming these insurgents, these pro-Russian speaking fighters in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukraine has signed an economic pact, a very big deal. Matter of fact, Ukraine-EU signed a historic trade and economic pact. In Brussels, Ukraine's new president signed this trade economic pact with the European Union today, pushing his troubled country closer to be joining the European Union. And this angers Russia. What will be the response by Vladimir Putin now, when Putin says he is trying to figure out a peaceable solution? I'm sure that this isn't going to go over very well at the Kremlin. So let's see what happens. I'm Pastor Paul Begley. Pray, folks. There's a lot going on in the world that's very highly dangerous and volatile. I'll be back in just a few moments with more current world events and how they relate to Bible prophecy. The bear of the north is Russia. So you have to understand Ukraine, all those pipelines of oil. Very important times.